Plus, President Trump with another hit on his attorney general, saying had he known Jeff Sessions would take himself out of the game, he would have chosen somebody else, and the Russia investigation would be over by now. Also, the president's former campaign chair, Paul Manafort, accused of trying to get witnesses to change their stories. Witness tampering. Now the special counsel wants Manafort locked up while he awaits 2 trials. This afternoon, Manafort's team responds. So let's get to it.
Breaking news. Shepard Smith reporting live from the Fox News deck.
From the Fox News deck, a live look at the White House, where the Philadelphia Eagles are not welcome today. President Trump disinvited the Super Bowl champs last night, instead hosting what he calls a celebration of America, which has now begun. Let's listen.
Great talent. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. I want to thank the United States Marine Band and the United States Army Chorus for that incredible performance. Their voices, oh, I'd love to have a voice like that. What a voice. We love our country, we respect our flag, and we always proudly stand for the national anthem. We always will stand for the national anthem. It is my great pleasure to welcome everyone to the White House for this patriotic celebration. Beautiful, beautiful day and a beautiful celebration. I also want to thank our great Vice President, Mike Pence. Thank you, Mike, for joining us, along with Secretary Stephen Mnuchin, Secretary Ryan Zinke, Representative Lou Barletta, who hopefully Lou Barletta will be your next senator from the great state of Pennsylvania. It is a great state. Representative Mike Kelly, thank you, Mike. Great to see you. I want to take this opportunity to explain why young Americans stand for our national anthem. Maybe it's about time that we understood. We stand to honor our military and to honor our country and to remember the fallen heroes who never made it back home. We stand to show our love for our fellow citizens and our magnificent Constitution. We stand to pay tribute to the incredible Americans who came before us and the heroic sacrifices they made. America is a great nation, a community, a family, and America is our home, and we love our home. And our country has never done better than it's doing right now. Never. Record numbers at every outpost. You take a look at what's going on. Lowest unemployment numbers we've had. Lowest African American unemployment in the history of our country. Lowest Hispanic numbers in the history of our country. Lowest numbers for women in 21 years. We've created $7 trillion of value in our country since the election. We're the largest economy in the world and getting a lot larger and fast. It's happened very quickly, actually quicker than I even thought. We're doing great. And all of those people that we honor, many of them are looking down right now. Some of them are right here. But many of them are looking down right now at our country, and they are proud. They are very, very proud. So we stand together for freedom. We stand together for patriotism. And we proudly stand for our glorious nation under God. I want to thank you all for being here. This is a beautiful, big celebration. Actually, to be honest, it's even bigger than we had anticipated. So I want to thank you very much, and God bless America. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in honoring our country by singing God Bless America.
Stand beside her and guide her through the night.
We stand to support, we stand to salute, we stand in the absence of the Philadelphia Eagles. But the thing is, the Eagles stood as well. It is the reporting of Fox News that every Eagle stood at every game, every time. None knelt. The president says only a small number of Eagles players was going to show up today, so he canceled their event. He also claims the Philadelphia Eagles disagree with him about standing for the national anthem. The truth is, as I mentioned, the entire team stood for the anthem every game last season. After the president scrapped the team's event, the former Eagles wide receiver Torrey Smith tweeted as follows: "So many lies, shake my head. Here are some facts. 1, not many people were going to go. 2, no one refused to go simply because Trump insists folks stand for the anthem. And 3, the president continues to spread the false narrative that players are anti-military." Some athletes have knelt during the anthem to protest police brutality against minorities and racial injustice. President Trump has criticized players who kneel, calling them SOBs and urging the NFL owners to fire them. Our chief White House correspondent, John Roberts, is live there now. John?
Shep, good afternoon to you. We didn't have an opportunity to get out to the South Lawn because the briefing went so late and almost up to your show, so that's why we're still in the briefing room. But it's no secret that President Trump has been at war to some degree with the NFL over this national anthem issue. And today, the White House absolutely slamming the Philadelphia Eagles and offering a rare glimpse into the negotiations that led up to today. The White House saying, and Sarah Huckabee Sanders repeating here from the podium, that last Thursday, the Eagles submitted the names of 81 players and staff members who would be coming to the White House today. The Secret Service, we're told, cleared them all in, and then the Eagles contacted the White House on Friday to say, well, we couldn't get that many people to come. It's only going to be a handful, so we'd like to look for a different date. What about the week after next, which would be next week when the president is in Singapore to meet Kim Jong-un? The White House went back and forth with the Eagles over the weekend, tried to save today. Eventually, it turned out that only 2 or 3 players, the owner, Jeffrey Lurie, and Swoop, the Eagles mascot, were going to be able to show up today. So the president canceled the whole thing. And listen to Sarah Huckabee Sanders as she took a flamethrower to the Eagles organization a few minutes ago.
If this wasn't a political stunt by the Eagles franchise, then they wouldn't have planned to attend the event and then backed out at the last minute. And if it wasn't a political stunt, then they wouldn't have attempted to reschedule the visit when they knew that the president was going to be overseas. And if this wasn't a political stunt, they wouldn't have waited until Monday, well after 1,000 of their fans had traveled and taken time out of their schedules to offer only a tiny handful of representatives to attend the event.
As you mentioned a couple of moments ago, Shep, the president believes that this was all about the fact that there were a lot of players who don't agree with him, that the players should stand for the national anthem. Torrey Smith, you heard one tweet from him. He tweeted about that saying, quote, "If you're going to tweet facts. No one on the Eagles took a knee last season, though some players did stand with their fists in the air in protest of police violence." The NFL Players Association said it was disappointed in the cancellation in a statement saying, quote, "This decision by the White House has led to the cancellation of several player-led community service events for young people in the Washington, D.C. area." Not clear, though, what was canceled, Shep, since only 2 or 3 players were planning on being in attendance. But no question, player-led community service events for young people in the Washington, D.C. area. Not clear, though, what was canceled, Shep, since only 2 or 3 players were planning on being in attendance. But no question that relations between the White House and at least the NFL franchise, the Philadelphia Eagles, are at a historic low as of this moment. Shep?
John Roberts, thank you. Back to you on other matters in a moment. First, for context and perspective on this, Trace Gallagher is live with us now. Trace?
A couple of things that we should remember here, Shep, as you talked about a couple of players John Roberts mentioned raising their hands during those games. Yeah, not a single Philadelphia Eagle knelt during the national anthem, sat down, or stayed in the locker room. But as John mentioned, a couple of did raise their hands as a protest for racial injustice. One of those was Malcolm Jenkins, a defensive back for the Philadelphia Eagles, and a very strong safety, all-pro. But he has been very proactive in saying the president has made this all about the fact that they believe he believes the players are disrespecting the military and that the players are disrespecting America. And he says the overall push here has had nothing to do with that. This is all about racial injustice. Malcolm Jenkins has been a very strong force in Philadelphia. He has raised tens of millions of dollars for inner city schools. We also know his teammate Chris Long was also very strongly against going to the White House. Chris Long played for the Patriots a couple of years ago, and when they won the Super Bowl during President Trump's first year in office, he did not go to the White House celebration. Chris Long's father, Howie Long, of course, works for us here at Fox News. It's a great family. Chris Long lives in Charlottesville, Virginia, and after the violence in Charlottesville and the president's reaction to that, Chris Long became a very strong advocate for making sure that everybody knew that the protest that began a couple of years ago with Colin Kaepernick had nothing to do with dissing the military or being anti-American. In fact, Colin Kaepernick himself at the time said that he would go from sitting on the bench during the national anthem, which he did, to kneeling because he met with military members and they said, you know, the optics, it just looks bad. So he came out and said, I am not trying to disrespect the military or America. We are talking simply about racial injustice. But the flip side of all this, Shep, is that it plays very well for the president and his base. You look at these polls from the Washington Post and CBS, 53 to 55% of Americans say it is always inappropriate to kneel during the national anthem. The NFL owners appear to be listening to the president, so there is a back and forth. The president thinks for him this is a winning issue and the players are staying away, clearly. Shep.
Trace Gallagher live for us. Trace, thank you. Coming up, continuing coverage of today's White House briefing, including a second day of dodging regarding statements which the lawyers for the president say he dictated, statements which the White House spokesperson say, well, it's a controversy in day two, and John Roberts has the details of it next. Stay with us. Continuing coverage now of news items at the White House briefing today. And once more, Sarah Sanders refused to correct the record on her statement that contradicted the president's own attorneys. Her report that President Trump did not dictate a statement on the Trump Tower meeting with a Russian lawyer and others. The president's legal team revealed in a secret memo, which Fox News has now confirmed and on which Fox News has reported, that President Trump did in fact dictate that statement. That's the legal version. The legal version sent to the special counsel investigating Russian meddling and otherwise. The public version from the White House podium continues to be that the meeting with the Russians in Trump Tower was about adoptions. This is important because Russians were meddling in the 2016 election. And at this meeting, were said to be offering dirt on President Trump's political opponent, not specifically about adoptions. Day two of questions on this and a second day of dodging by Sarah Sanders. Back to John Roberts at the White House. John?
And so we have that contradiction, Shep, between what was said in the days after that statement came out when the president was on his way back from the G20 summit in Hamburg. Jay Sekulow, one of his outside counsel, said on July the 12th that the president had no hand in writing that. That was simply Donald Trump Jr. Then we had Sarah Huckabee Sanders saying, well, the president didn't dictate it, but he did weigh in as any father would do when his son is involved. And then we had the January 29th 20-page letter that Fox News obtained, which clearly says that the president dictated that. And that was written by Jay Sekulow, Rudy Giuliani, saying he believes that Sekulow had it wrong the first time out, because clearly Sekulow knew what was up when he wrote that on January the 29th. So we've had a correction there. But Sarah Huckabee Sanders continues to refuse to even engage or entertain questions about her statement and whether or not she believes that she was speaking the truth from the podium. Listen to the back and forth earlier.
Was it accurate or not? That's all we want to know.
I work day in, day out, and I believe, frankly, with the majority of you here in the room, I think you all know I'm an honest person who works extremely hard to provide you with accurate information at all times. I'm going to continue to do that, but I'm not going to engage on matters that deal with the outside counsel.
Sarah Sanders went so far as to say that she believes that her credibility is higher than that of the media's, and sort of spanked everybody here in the room for reporting on things that she would not want to have them report on. But again, Shep, no clarification from the White House on whether or not that statement, as she read it back then, was accurate or what informed her statement. So I think we'll keep pushing on that front. Shep?
President Trump, John, is slamming his Attorney General Jeff Sessions again.
Yeah. And what's really curious about this, Shep, is that Rudy Giuliani told me last week that he thinks that it's counterproductive for the president to keep slamming Jeff Sessions, because Giuliani thought that he was making some headway and questioning the whole premise of the Mueller investigation and the boundaries with which the Mueller investigation has expanded over these last 12 to 13 months. But the president tweeting this morning, quote, "The Russian witch hunt hoax continues. It's all because Jeff Sessions didn't tell me he was going to recuse himself. I would have quickly picked someone else. So much time and money wasted, so many lives ruined, and Sessions knew better than most that there was no collusion." So the president clearly ignoring Rudy Giuliani's advice on that. So I put the question to Sarah Sanders earlier today. Well, what is it that the president is really up to here? What is the president's goal here? Is it just simply to remind the attorney general that he's really PO'd at him and he's not going to let him forget it? Is he trying to get him to quit? Is he trying to emasculate him?
The president's made his position on this extremely clear, and I don't have anything to add beyond that.
You didn't quite get all of the context there in the question and answer. The reason why you heard some laughing there, Shep, is because I prefaced my question by saying that the president took a stick to his favorite piñata today, which it's clear Jeff Sessions continues to be. Shep?
John Roberts at the White House. John, thank you. Paul Manafort, the president's campaign chair, is out of jail on $10 million bail and on house arrest while he waits for 2 trials to begin. But now the special counsel in the Russia investigation wants him locked up. His team is asking a judge to revoke Paul Manafort's bail over accusations that Manafort tried to tamper with witnesses. The details and the Manafort response coming up.
Call 1-800-331-BACK now for your free MRI review.
Paul Manafort, he could be behind bars before he even goes to trial. The special counsel Robert Mueller's team is accusing President Trump's former campaign manager of trying to tamper with witnesses in his own criminal case. One witness says he felt Manafort was trying to get him to commit perjury. That's according to court documents. Prosecutors write that Paul Manafort and one of his associates repeatedly contacted 2 witnesses, sometimes using encrypted messaging to try to influence their testimony. If true, that's a violation of his conditions for house arrest, and actually a crime in and of itself. So the feds are asking a judge to transfer Manafort to jail. Manafort has pleaded not guilty to charges including conspiracy against the United States. He has not been charged with witness tampering. He's accused of funneling payments through foreign companies and bank accounts as part of political work for the pro-Russia president of Ukraine. Our chief intelligence correspondent, Catherine Herridge, is live on Capitol Hill. What's the latest from Manafort's defense, Catherine?
Okay, so what we're hearing from the Manafort team, Shep, is that they are going to mount a defense against these allegations, but I want to get to some issues on the calendar first. They've got until June 8th now to file their response to the 18-page motion that was filed late last night in the district court here in Washington by special counsel Robert Mueller's team. And then on June 15th, they will have a hearing on the matter. In the meantime, Manafort's team has put out a statement that reads, Manafort is innocent and nothing about these latest allegations change our defense. We will do our talking in courts. In other words, they're not going to engage with the media. They're going to make their arguments before the judge in this case. But some senior Senate Democrats here on Capitol Hill see it quite differently.
Paul Manafort ought to be jailed. Most likely, I think, should face serious criminal penalties for witness tampering, potentially suborning perjury. But while this trial is pending, he should be confined so that justice is fair for him and for others who may be indicted in the future.
So a lot of lawmakers are coming back to Capitol Hill today, so we've got some pretty limited reaction, and we haven't really heard much from Republicans or others supporting Manafort's position, Shep.
He could face jail time, Manafort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you've been following this very closely. There's been this incredibly sort of tense and sort of tumultuous, if you will, back and forth between Special Counsel Robert Mueller's team and Manafort's lawyers about the conditions of his bail and the terms of that bail, which right now is like a home detention, if you will. Mueller's team is making the argument that this alleged tampering with witnesses is a violation of those terms and that he should now be subject to detention. And the reason that's a very big deal for the Manafort team is that we've got two cases running in tandem. The one here in the district court here in Washington, D.C., with the new allegations of witness tampering. And then we have this second prosecution that's moving along an independent track in Virginia. And they've got a big hearing coming up before the end of the month on allegations that there were improper disclosures to the media from one of the lead prosecutors there, Andrew Weissman. So having Manafort in detention would have the impact really of limiting his ability to mount his defense with his lawyers. And that's really essentially one of their main arguments, Shep.
Catherine Herridge, thanks so much, Catherine. More on that as we get it. So where are we, big picture? Let's turn to John Bussey, associate editor for the Wall Street Journal, a publication and website with which this company, this news network shares common ownership. He's also a Fox News contributor. There's a lot here. There are a lot of lies. There are some who have pleaded guilty to items regarding Russians. There are others who are charged with items regarding Russians. There are others who have, on the record, lied with items regarding Russians. And now all of these investigations and the pushbacks and the national anthem and the Philadelphia Eagles, this is not normal in America. We've not seen this in my lifetime. What is this?
Yeah, it's an argumentative president who today got stood up on a date at the White House, so canceled the date, and did so in a way that diminished the Eagles, essentially accused them of not being patriotic, suggested that they weren't standing for the flag, for the anthem, regardless of where you are politically on that issue. That's simply wrong. You know, they did stand for the anthem in their games. But that way of sort of twisting the truth and sort of leaving behind ill feeling, I think, is in part the strategy of the president across the board here. We see him attacking Sessions again. We see him obfuscating on this letter issue. Sarah Sanders is still trying to explain why she said one thing and the lawyers have said, another thing.
Well, had the lawyers said something that wasn't true to the Manafort investigation, that would be a crime, wouldn't it?
Yes. The
lawyers said instead President Trump dictated the letter which said the thing that wasn't true, which was that the meeting was about Russian adoptions when it was actually about, with a Russian interpreter in the room, getting dirt on Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, he's got to be truthful with the investigators.
But not with the public. Because his spokesperson speaks for him to the public. And she said one thing, but the lawyers who speak legally to the court said another.
Yeah, I think it's an important distinction. I think the American public, though, realizes that she works for us, right? And so does the president.
So does
right?
He,
so does the president. We're paying their salary. So, how does all this shake out? Why? Well, pressure from the Mueller investigation continues to mount. This is like a siege engine rolling up to the castle. You imagine him sort of attacking Sessions because of that frustration. You imagine him speaking this way about the Eagles to try to make this a patriotic issue when it's not a patriotic issue. You could argue just as effectively that the Eagles are being tremendously patriotic and respectful of the Constitution, which the president suggested they weren't being, by speaking their mind and by engaging in issues that are difficult in the United States to talk about. Racism, police brutality, you name it. That's what this is really about. It's not respecting the military or not respecting the flag.
If this is an effort to get the people not to trust the institutions which are the foundation of the republic, in other words, the justice system, the media, if the effort is to get the people to distrust them so that once the investigation comes out, they won't believe the investigators or the message deliverers, is that dangerous to our young republic?
Well, I think that's quite clearly the strategy, right? You denigrate the FBI, you denigrate the intelligence services, and yes, it is dangerous for our republic. We'll see how well those institutions withstand the attack. Presumably, they will withstand the attack, but at a certain point, you do need a balance of powers in government, and we're not quite seeing that balance right now. Congress isn't stepping forward and calling the president to account, but the judicial system might be. And it might find him innocent of any collusion or any wrongdoing. We don't know the results yet. Mueller has been very secretive about this. But in the interim, the president is reacting this way, I think, out of frustration and out of an effort to delegitimize, as you point out, in case there is criticism of his. But mind you, Shep, look, yes, he speaks to his base and he riles up his base. But there are a lot of other voters in the United States, a lot of people in the middle, a lot of people on the other side politically. He's got to be very careful of antagonizing them and putting institutions at risk that they respect.
But generally speaking, we say base, but we're talking about 35% of the population. Are they being misled about what the Justice Department and the media are doing?
Well, I think that you've articulated the falsehoods. We've all talked about the problem with the president not always being on speaking terms with the truth. You decide whether or not that's being misled. He at least is putting a big spin on the ball for them. And I think the broader public has to evaluate that. The broader public may not be part of his base, and he may be alienating them. The Eagles are in Philadelphia. Pennsylvania, he won, but not by a lot. We have to remember that.
John Bussey from Wall Street Journal, thank you.
Pleasure.
Artificial intelligence, not just for self-driving cars and chess-playing computers. There's word the military may soon use it to protect America from nuclear. Report now, headlines from the Fox News desk. The Islamic State taking credit, if you will, for a deadly attack on some religious leaders in Afghanistan. Leaders who had just called for peace talks. ISIS militants call them tyrant clerics. Happened in Kabul yesterday. Suicide bombing, killed 7, injured 20. A sheriff's department hiring a cop in Georgia just a couple of days after another department fired that same officer for hitting a suspect with his car. You can see it on body camera video. Happened in Athens, East Atlanta. Sheriff who hired the then unemployed officer said he'd known the guy for a while and has, quote, no reservations, unquote, about giving him a job. Lava from Kilauea volcano on Hawaii's Big Island has now destroyed more than 100 homes. Thousands of people have evacuated since that volcano started erupting last month. Now officials telling more people to get ready to leave. Scientists say it's covered 8. Hear this now. Artificial intelligence could protect America from nuclear weapons by searching the planet for signs of a planned missile launch from nations like North Korea. Artificial intelligence. That's according to U.S. officials who spoke with the Reuters news agency. It's a brand new thing. They say computers running artificial intelligence software could monitor warning signs from all over the world, processing far more information than humans ever could, and searching for signs of potential attacks. It's a fascinating thing to learn about. Our national security correspondent, Jennifer Griffin, with the news live at the Pentagon. Jennifer, I read this morning and was like, this sounds new to me, but I guess it's not.
Well, it's fascinating, Shepard. The Pentagon has been ramping up its investment in artificial intelligence, and now we are learning about a secret program that would allow the U.S. military to anticipate the launch of nuclear missiles, a program that could help the U.S. defend against mobile missile launchers and hidden launch sites like the ones you see in North Korea. The pilot program focuses on North Korea, according to the Reuters report. In fact, using technology that can see through clouds and foliage, these classified intelligence programs would use computers to quickly scour through vast amounts of data, satellite images, and geospatial data. If it works, it would give the U.S. time to use diplomacy to stop a potential missile launch rather than relying on missile intercepts or mutually assured destruction involving retaliatory launches, which the U.S. has relied on since the Cold War. The Pentagon would not comment on this particular North Korea-focused artificial intelligence pilot program, but issued the following statement. Quote, as stated in the National Defense Strategy, the department will invest broadly in military application of autonomy, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, including rapid application of commercial breakthroughs to gain competitive military advantages. The Pentagon has tripled the funding for artificial intelligence involving missile programs in next year's defense budget, Shep.
Seems like there's always a downside. What do the critics say could be the unintended consequences?
Well, critics say while the goal of finding missiles before they are in a position to launch is noble, some worry that the accelerated decision-making process that AI provides could actually accelerate or escalate a nuclear crisis. There could be computer-generated errors, and China and Russia and even North Korea are sophisticated enough to trick the system. All of this could lead to misunderstanding in a crisis, retired Pentagon officials warn. A group of Google engineers recently threatened to quit after thousands of Google employees petitioned the company to stop working with the Pentagon on a separate AI contract known as Project Maven, which would develop artificial intelligence that would quickly sort through data and images fed back from drones in the hunt for terrorists. Google recently pulled out of the Pentagon contract, succumbing to pressure from its engineers who warned about using science to take humans out of the kill chain. Shep.
Well, Jennifer Griffin at the Pentagon using science to take humans out of the kill chain. Think of that. Artificial intelligence, of course, far from perfect. For example, in one case last year, students at MIT said they tricked a computer into reporting that it had spotted a rifle. It was actually this turtle. Meantime, the venue is set for President Trump's meeting with the North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, and here it is. The White House announced the two leaders will meet at this luxury hotel on a resort island off Singapore's southern coast. The scheduled summit is just 1 week from now. And the planning continued today. Our Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, meeting with Singapore's foreign ministers at the White House. Rich Edson, live at the State Department. What are you hearing about a possible deal with North Korea?
Well, Shep, the teams are negotiating right now. The United States and North Korea trying to reach as much agreement as they can before President Trump and Kim Jong-un meet. And we're now hearing from a senior Republican senator that he's gotten assurances from top administration officials that any deal they reach, Congress would vote on before it went into effect.
The President, the Vice President, and the Secretary of State have all told me separately that their intent is to put together a treaty that will be submitted to the United States Senate under the Constitution for ratification.
Now, the Secretary of State met this afternoon with the Singaporean foreign minister. We asked him whether the U.S. would only pursue a treaty with North Korea, and he refused to answer, Shep.
Rich Edson at State, thank you. No summer vacation for the U.S. Senate. The top Republican says it's because of historic obstruction by Democrats. Democrats say he's up to something